I've worked at St. Francis Hospital in Peoria, Illinois for over 20 years. I've seen some of the nun ghosts on the 7th floor, where the laboratory was when I worked there. The morgue was also on that floor. I was working third shift one night. At times, we took the back elevator, the service elevator, to the floors to draw labs when needed. As I was walking down the hall to the elevator, I saw a nun getting onto the elevator. I yelled out to her, "Please hold the elevator, sister." The door started closing. Thinking she did not hear me, I hit the down button as it closed. The door opened, but there was no one on the elevator. There was nowhere else she could have gone, for it was a dead-end hallway. To take the stairs, she would have had to walk past me. This was a strange night, and it took place many years ago. Another moment, it was fairly late, and I was again on my way to the elevator. This time, I made it inside alone, and as the elevator was closing, I saw a man in a white lab coat standing all the way at the end of the hallway. At the time, the hallway was pretty dark, but there was just enough light that you could see down it. I knew for a fact that there was absolutely no one else on the floor at the time. The image of the man in the lab coat, and also the nun, will always be engraved in my mind. This hospital has always had a reputation for having had ghostly visitations from previous employees who used to work there. Some of my coworkers have experienced this as well. When I was describing what I had seen to a current coworker, she was a bit startled from the revelation. That's because one night, she had taken the elevator to the morgue, and when she got down to it, she could have sworn that she saw a figure or dark shadow in a praying position, kneeled over. She said the figure was an outline of a person. No distinct features, almost cloud-like, but could definitely tell it was made to be some sort of person. My theory is that the nun appeared once again to help with the newly deceased transition to the other side. I'd also like to think that the man in the lab coat was a former employee of this hospital. Either way, there's quite a bit of haunted history here, and I'm not sure how to deal with it at times. Since I'm fairly used to creepy happenings, it no longer frightens me like it used to, but there's always a bit of excitement in telling these tales to those who haven't heard them before. I believe there is a portal to the other side that humans have access to, and eventually we'll transport ourselves to this world. As for now, we're just getting a glimpse of the afterlife. This is an authentic story, and it happened to me. I've already posted this on allaboutghosts.com, but I've not heard anything about this place other than my story. Maybe someone out there has had a similar experience, or even paranormal things happen at this place. What made me want to add my story here is when I read the story about Tacoma, Point Defiance Park, 5 Mile Drive. This story grabbed me and was almost disturbing to me because it is so closely related to mine about a little girl. However, this was no ordinary looking girl. She was looking real, of course, except she had no eyes and was smiling, and then all of a sudden she disappeared. I was searching here to see if there was anything from my spot at Eagle Falls. When I went to this favorite swimming hole of mine on Sequoia River. This is a very beautiful swimming hole, almost lagoon-like, where the river flows with falls into a pool of deep, colorful water, and under the water, on the side of the walls, there are huge, giant flat rocks that drop off down where you cannot see the bottom. The rocks above have been carved into the star-like settings that have become flat, and then go down into where the river wall is. Across the river, which is only about 50 feet or so, there are rocks where people can climb to. There is a rope swing tied to a tree on this side also. It's a popular spot for people to swim in the summer. I really like this place for swimming and floating on my raft with flippers, so I can move faster to swim up the currents of the falls better and ride the river down. This brings me to my story. I was headed towards the place where I was going to do just that, and noticed there were two people to the right of me, a man and a woman, one sitting next to the rope swing, and the other climbing up the rocks. And to the left of me, there was this little girl, about 6 or 7 years old, and standing about 3 feet away from me, on the edge of the rock by the water with her head turned slightly, and just smiling at me. I am swimming still almost to passing her, and notice she's still smiling, so I smiled. I waved to her and said hi. She still smiles at me, but says nothing back. I looked at her again, this time into her eyes. We locked eyes for a second, and that is when I noticed her eyes were very dark, to the point where I couldn't see her eye color. They only looked like black holes, almost hollow-like. Everything about this girl seemed normal, except for her eyes. She had a cute little swimsuit that was lime green, with little white flowers on it, and a little ruffle around the waist. She was tan, and had golden blonde shiny hair that came down past her shoulders, and also had bare feet. She was alone. There was nobody above her or next to her. I was thinking that maybe she was standing there watching her mother swing from the rope swing, or something, but as I swam a little bit past her, I suddenly turned to look back, because I feared her being too close to the edge, and wanted to let her to know to step back. But as I turned to do this, she was gone. Now, I was wondering how she could climb the rocks that quickly, and how she could be completely out of sight when I only turned for a second, then looked back. Surely I would have noticed her walking away, at least if she did climb the rocks, or even if she had fallen in, I would have heard the sound of water splashing. I was only a few feet away from where she was standing, and I quickly went to the area where I saw her, and nothing. I looked above and further back where some people were sitting by some trees, and looked down along the banks where other people were sitting, and with kids, and no one looked like her, or had blonde golden hair, or the same bathing suit on. At this point of feeling very confused, I felt a cold chill come over me, and my hairs and my arms were standing up. I felt a sadness and chilling feeling, and had a vision of the same girl falling into the water and drowning. I even felt some pain and a little bit of anger type emotions right there where she stood while I was still trying to see if I could find her. I thought, where are her parents? Why is she all alone? So I swam back up to my spot by the river and told a friend I was with what happened, and I pointed to the rock she was on. He said it sounded and even looked like I saw a ghost from the way I was acting. I asked him if he would go back with me to look for her, and he said no way, that is way too creepy. I don't want to go over there with you. I'm thinking about how this situation is so crazy, and the fact that it's daylight even. I'm going back to see if I can see her, I said. Determined to find her, I swam back to the spot where it happened and looked all over the area where people were sitting, and still, no little girl in a green bathing suit. I started looking in the water to see if I could see anything from down there. Nothing. And the girl across the river that I thought was her mother was not. She was with the guy on the rock still. Then again, I get the chill, and I'm feeling sad, and start becoming afraid of the spot, and even swam away from it again, thinking this doesn't make any sense, then wondering if I'm the only one who saw her. Did the people across the river even see her? This is a wide visible area where you can see everyone around you. Am I losing it? Then I remember those eyes she had were actually hollow. The smile she made, and just kept smiling at me. How she didn't even move from the time I swam towards her, stopped, made eye contact, and said hi, then kept swimming, only a few feet further, then turned around to say she was close to the edge, or, "Where is your mother? Somebody should be with you." I truly believe what I saw was an entity of some sort, and perhaps this little girl might have fell into the river and drowned, right where she was standing. I've heard some stories from here of people dying at the spot by swinging from the rope swings and jumping from the high cliffs, which happened right across from where she was. I also believe I wouldn't be so disturbed by this if it all seemed normal, but it didn't, and for some reason, she didn't seem to fit in. I wrote to ease my mind, and maybe to just get it out somehow. If anything at all, I will probably never know why she picked me to see her, but I will never forget what she looked like, or how she stared at me and smiled for so long. Maybe she was looking out for some people swimming in the river. Who knows? Well, this is the end of my story. Up until I was around 10, my mom, sister, and dad and I lived in a house called Fielder's Green, which was in Lanark, Cornwall. The house must have been around 50 years old, and was originally 2 cottages joined together, meaning it was fairly big. To begin, the only things that would happen would be the odd cold spot, and often I felt like I was being watched. Another time, my mom went to use the downstairs bathroom, leaving my dad in the kitchen, when she heard a man cough loudly outside the door. Thinking it was my dad using the study, she shouted something, only to hear no reply. She left the bathroom. There was no one outside, or even in the study. When she went back to the kitchen, my dad was at the same place. She asked him if he had followed her to the bathroom, which incidentally wasn't near the kitchen, and he said he hadn't moved. There was no one else at the house at the time, apart from me and my sister, and we were in bed. Another thing that happened was when my mom, my dad, and my dad's friend were sat in the kitchen late one night, when they suddenly heard an almighty crash from my bedroom upstairs. My mom said it sounded like a full-grown adult being thrown to the floor. Thinking maybe my wardrobe had toppled over, or I'd fallen out of bed, they ran upstairs and found me fast asleep, with nothing out of place. Later on, they even got someone to check the chimney in my room to see if a stone had fallen down it, but they found nothing. To this day, we don't know what the crash was, or indeed who made it. The most unexplained incident, however, was the sound of a singing lady. My mom and dad were asleep in bed, and they were woken by a tuneless humming outside their bedroom door. There was no way it would have been me or my sister, as we were only young, and it was quite clearly the sound of a woman. The sound came along the corridor from my room and gradually disappeared downstairs. Another time, my mom, sister, and I were inside my mom and dad's bedroom, helping my mom fold up some laundry. My dad was outside mowing the lawn, and we could see him from the room. After we had finished, we went to open the bedroom door, which was shut. We couldn't get out. The door had no lock on it and wasn't jammed. There was no draft in the room, as it was an airless summer's day. It felt like someone was standing outside, holding onto the handle to prevent us from leaving. My mom, who is obviously stronger than me and my sister, tried the door too, but there was no lock. In the end, we had to shout outside to my dad to come and let us out. He opened the door easily, and there was no sign of it ever being stuck. We left that house when my parents separated, and I found out from someone that knew the current inhabitants that they too were experiencing strange things, such as their child's toys being turned and turned off during that night. My friends and I went to Cypress Valley Cemetery in Villanova, Arkansas. We come to your site and have tried out some of the places and have gotten good responses. We parked our car out front and went into the gates around 3 in the morning. There were 4 of us. There were 2 guys, and then my best friends and I, who are girls. The guys went in first, and we followed them soon after. Immediately entering, we all had a very strange feeling come over us. My best friend and I decided to go back to the car and let the guys walk around and explore some more. We were alone in the car for nearly 20 minutes with the windows rolled down because we were smoking when we started hearing screams from the distance. They sounded like they were coming from a woman. We saw no one else there. Then a few minutes later, my best friend saw the outline of 2 men walking on one end of the cemetery. She assumed it was our guys, so she called their cells, which when they answered, the lights from the phone showed us that they were on the complete opposite end. There is no way that they could have made it over there that quick. When we finally decided to leave, they got in the car and we sat for a minute. We had the windows rolled down, but it was about 68 degrees outside, so it wasn't cold at all. We all felt as if the air conditioning was blasting on us, but there was no source of air. It was very strange. Strange things kept happening to us later the next day. We go ghost hunting almost every weekend, and have been to many places, and this one was by far the scariest place. It just felt very uneasy, very dark. Just thought I'd let you know. Here's one of my stories of paranormal activity. From being very young, my brother and I had always experienced things we knew were not normal, but of course, our grandparents, whom we had lived with since we can remember, brushed it off as childish imagination. As we were growing up, we saw less and less unusual happenings. It all began when I was 15 years old. My brother at the time was 17, and our grandfather passed away. My entire family reported seeing him the night after he passed away. Now, my family has its skeptics and its believers, and every one of them reported seeing him laughing and looking much younger and healthier than they'd ever remembered. He smiled at them all and said goodbye. Now, my brother and I had not seen this apparition, so we brushed it off as their subconscious projecting an image they all wanted to see. Of course we were believers, but we thought if anyone would have seen him, it would have been us, for we had been there for him when nobody else had ever been. Well, our thoughts came to reality one night, around 5 months after his passing, and this supposed collective haunting. My brother and I were up in his room playing on the PC. My grandmother was out, and my little sister in bed. Now my grandfather, or Daddy, as was his nickname, always enjoyed his music and always had it on extremely loud. We were laughing at something on the internet when John Lennon, Imagine, began playing very loudly downstairs. Well, at first, we thought it was a cruel joke by our neighbors. This particular song had been his first choice for his cremation, and so I, being the braver of us, stormed downstairs to find it was indeed coming from the office room that was my grandfather's. I walked into his old room to find it was freezing, and there were no windows or doors open, and the CD player was not on, and the music was still going. Then, there was a knock on the back door. Usually our neighbors used our back door, and the music stopped. My brother was now downstairs with me, and we thought it must have been our neighbors there to complain, and the noise, so he unblocked and opened the door. Opposite the door was an outside toilet, and as my brother opened the door, he froze. His face paled, and I could tell there was something wrong. I looked outside to see nothing, but incredibly shaken by the music, I slammed and locked the door, turned every light on in the house, bar my sister's, as she was seemingly sound asleep, and sat downstairs, waiting for my grandmother. To this day, my brother will not tell me what he saw outside, but I doubt it was the friendly spirit of my grandfather coming to say goodbye. The reason I believe this is because the morning after, my little sister said, "Do you believe in ghosts?" I didn't react and merely asked why. She then replied that the night before Daddy had been in her room when she was crying about his passing, telling her to shush, that everything was okay and he was happy. Also, my neighbors, who were really quick to complain, never mentioned any loud music coming from our house. So I really want to know why only us heard this music, and more importantly, who had been outside when my brother had opened the door. There is a two-story house right in the center of town that I lived in 1958 or 1959. It is known as the old Vandelsum house. Both my cousin and I experienced odd things in that house. There were many times that we would hear footsteps, such as a man wearing boots walking from the upstairs front bedroom towards the back bedroom to the left of the stairs. My cousin also said that she saw an old apparition in the backyard. I went to see the psychic Carol Pete this week and showed her a picture of the house. She said she felt it was a soldier from the Civil War era. Also, she said that many horrible things happened on the property. No one ever died in the house, so it is connected with the land it sits on. We stayed there only about 2 or 3 months and moved to another location in the same town. I also found out that I am a psychic medium, have had many unexplained things happen through the years. This soldier is not threatening. He does not know he is dead. Wish the house was mine so I could try to help him. All this has been burned in my memory for nearly 50 years. Hey Phantom, so first of all, I bet you thought I wasn't going to get a video out this soon, but guys, I'm more motivated because Halloween is right around the corner and it's officially October, and I really wanted to get these stories off to a great start. So here I am, narrating more stories for you. But guys, seriously, thank you so much for tuning in yet again and listening to this great story collection. There's a lot of great material in this video. I think a little bit more so than the last video I just released earlier this week. But if you haven't checked that video out, I suggest you watch that video first, come back to this video, and let me know in the comment section which video you prefer more and which stories you like better. Guys, that's really all I have to say. Ooh, my voice. But anyway, I love you guys so much. Please remember to share this video all around social media, everywhere you can, because it really helps my channel grow. And especially during this month where it's spooky season, it's really important to get like everybody together and we can enjoy our time and find everybody who enjoys stories like this and has a real affinity for ghost stories. We tell ghost stories 100% of the time, all the time. So thank you so much. And one more thing, if you guys know Goodnight Goosebumps, he will be appearing in a video later this week. I'll let you guys know when that happens. And yeah, I got guest stars now. So thank you so much, guys. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.